What's going on, Flickin' Fanatics? It is Jesse Swift and Sean Wingblade coming back at you with a Last of Us review for episode 3 titled Long, Long Time. Is that right?
Long
Perfect.
time.
That was off of memory. I didn't know where to look for it. But anyways, guys, we finally get what we've been waiting for, and that is a reference to the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade machine. Woo!
That's what we've been waiting for. Thank you very much.
But we will go into a full dissection of this episode, Nick Offerman's performance, and just the beautiful, beautiful, sad, tragic story that it was right after the jump. All right, welcome back. Now that you are here with us, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to continue talking about The Last of Us with us every week, as we do. I'm excited to get into this episode. I say excited with a question mark. Not that it wasn't a good episode, but like it hurt. Yeah. And like this show's really been punching me in the heart and making me cry consistently.
Sometimes you need these moments to commiserate a little bit and just talk about her feelings, because it was sad, but it was also sad in such a beautiful and almost like uplifting way, in the way that Bill and Frank's arc push off onto Joel and how his growth is going to be throughout the season, much like it was throughout the game, but they're doing it in slightly different ways.
Right, and there is echoes of the messages that are the final message from Tess of, save who you can. And now it's, I don't remember the exact words, but like, protect those that you love, be a protector, things of that nature. And Nick Offerman, fantastic performance. If you guys aren't aware, I'm sure it's in the title of this video, but spoilers, full spoilers. We're going into a dissection of this episode. And it's really the Frank and Bill show with Joel and Ellie just kind of making cameos in there. And I will say off the jump, I think, because I've done this before with past episodes, I found it entertaining to see how they catch us up to this X point in the game. Mm-hmm. And so you keep looking for how they're going to tie and get caught up to this part of the game. And this episode didn't. They're like, we're going to do something else. We're going to introduce characters that you've met or at least heard of in some instances, like Frank. And we're going to take this moment to tell a deeply intimate, personal story and further explore the world of Last of Us, like they've been doing an excellent job of. And I thought it was very well handled. What are your thoughts just off the top of episode 3?
It was beautiful. It was a great divergent from the story of the game, and how there's still going to be point A and point B that we have to get to in the story when you meet these various characters, whether it be Bill and Frank, whether it be Sam and Henry down the road, whether it be any number of characters that from the game that we're going to meet, I'm sure, in the show. And we still went from A to B. But we just took a zigzaggy, like, roller coaster road to get there. It was very different. And I liked it because it keeps the gamers on their toes, keeps us interested, that where we know, oh yeah, of course we know this. Wait, this is not what I remember at all. Great. And that means you're glued to your screen and you're watching.
It's been a really great balance of going like, aha, and oh, it's a great combo of that. Like, we know that Joel and Ellie have to get to a truck. That does happen. And it's Bill's truck.
Yes. Right.
But the timeline and so many things in between are different, and we get to see Bill meet Joel in the past, and it's not explored as much currently. But again, it is really...
We're going to go minor spoilers for the game too, if you're doing like a play along or whatever. We're going to compare it back and forth. We will not go beyond this episode into what happens next. If you've seen the teaser, it looks very true to the game. If you've seen the teaser, which Allison and I did a reaction for, so keep an eye on the channel later today if you're watching this on Monday, and just go look at the channel if you're watching this any other time. But this one went very different. So we will do comparisons. I'm sure it'll just come up in casual conversations. Just a heads up for anyone watching.
And I want to comment on something that the showrunners were saying in the kind of behind the scenes bit after the episode. They said when writing the show and deciding what to put into the show, when the game is better, we stick to the game. When we think that we've written something better, we deviate. And we alternate back and forth between sticking to the game and deviating, but it all truly sticks to the spirit of the game of Last of Us.
And the spirit of the characters too. which is actually something different, I think, that Ellie did in this episode and a little bit in the first episode that I do want to talk about and get to. But I'm ready to hop fully into it. And I just came up with a term in my head while you were talking. Typically, a lot of people will call things like this, where it's, hey, those aren't our main characters, it's the main characters of the story we're watching. It's like a bottle episode, right? I think we should call this one a compound episode, because we took place mostly in Bill's compound of a town. Because he quarantined off his own town. He built all his own fence.
I got to make a comparison to one of my favorite properties and franchises, and that's Trimmers. And I think Nick Offerman was basically playing Burt Gummer with a little more flair, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
And
yeah, so first off, we get them walking down the road. They're on their way. They're trying to find their way to Bill and Frank. And they see this grave of skulls and babies. And then it was... and you can watch this in our watch along. Alice and I did the watch along for the channel. We were just so terrified. They did a flashback in time to... They show the clothes that were in the grave with the mother and child, and we're like, no, we are not going to see these people get killed. I don't want to see this baby get killed. But it was like a perfect transition into showing like Bill hiding underneath his house in his compound.
right.
And you can even hear the Fedra agent go, no, we're in the basement. It's clear. Well, Bill's below the basement. Right. He built his bunker underneath. And Joel even calls him, what are you, some kind of prepper? He goes, I'm a survivalist.
Right. In New Order, jackboot fuckers.
Yes. So divergent from the game in the sense of like the type of character that Ellie is. You see the scene. It plays back to the first episode when Ellie is watching Joel beat the crap out of that Fedra agent. And then and when she goes into the basement of that convenience store, gas station.
Don't skip over the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade machine.
First, she sees the Mortal Kombat, and she was probably inspired, in fact, by the
and the reference of Melina and spitting bones out and the Mortal Kombat 2 fatalities. Dude, I was like this. That was my moment. Sorry.
Of course, you were. I was thinking about you the whole time. So she goes up to this infected that's trapped, and she's just toying with it. She's slicing its head open. She seeks to understand, just to watch it bleed.
That's how I took it. It was like she's like scared but a little fascinated by the infected, and she kind of wanted to see like what was going on. And you could see that it's all fungus. She wanted because she asked Joel. She's like, "Is it hard?"
It was sadistic though.
To some degree, like there's definitely damage. She's definitely damaged goods. But I remember in the last episode, she asked Joel, "Is it hard killing them when you know they used to be human?" And I think for her, it was her trying to kind of see into Joel's experience of being able to detach the infected from humanity. So when she like cuts into it a little bit and sees that it's all fungus inside, there's no humanity left in it at all. She's going to need to draw back on that moving forward when she has to start taking things out to not think of them as human.
I guess so. I guess that's a better way to think about it. I didn't think about it that way.
It was a little dark. It was dark for sure. She's got issues.
In the game, anytime Ellie does any sort of physical act against an assailant, whether it be Fedra agents, raiders, or infected, she's always does it as a necessity, as a response to save Joel. Usually it's Joel like getting held up from behind. Ellie will jump on their back and like stab him or something like that. But she's very rarely just outright attacking, if she doesn't have to, unless she is being attacked. She's defending herself. She's not proactive.
It was also the first thing we've seen her kill. So because like after that she does that little cut and she's like, it's done. There's no humanity left, and then she kills it. So I think it was that like connection for her. That's at least how I viewed it. But it was dark.
Yeah, but then you see a flip side of her character too, because you see the wonderment, and Bella Ramsey's doing a fantastic job, because you're like, they're walking down the road and she sees the plane. She's like, holy crap, those were in the sky. And then in like the second episode, when they're traveling through the city to get to the Capitol, and she's like, look at this view. She's like, it's a hell of a view. So you see this wonderment in a child's eyes where she's experienced the world.
She's only known Fedra and the QC.
Yeah. So there's she's definitely not just like some black and white character. She's so many shades of gray. Not to make a weird reference, but she's very multifaceted, I suppose. Yes. And which is probably more than we get for the first game, because we're mostly playing as Joel, and we get Joel's backstory. We actually didn't get her backstory until after the game is over, when you get the DLC, the Left Behind DLC with her and Riley. So yeah, maybe it's just me thinking about it. It's interesting to get more backstory for our main characters that we already know so much about, when the show is actually giving us mostly backstory about the surrounding characters. But maybe it's just me not realizing that there's more to Ellie than I realized I didn't know, or something. I
also love that Joel was saying, no, don't bother looking. The place has been really picked through. And then she finds the box of tampons. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Right. perfect necessities that she needs. What happened next? Where did we go
well
next?
We do start getting into when they start talking about where they're heading to Bill and Frank's is when we start getting our full transition into that. But I do want to just comment overall on the episodes. The moments we do get with Joel and Ellie, I feel like this was the episode that really started diving into the chemistry between the characters, and the back and forth is like the most they've talked to each other. And I'm really enjoying it.
She had a million questions, just question after question.
That's how Joel knew something was up, because all of a sudden there was silence. He's like, there's never silence.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, inside the gas station. He's like, why is it so quiet? Yeah, if your kids are quiet, as a parent, it's fine when you can hear them. It's when you don't hear them, you're like, oh shit, I gotta go figure out what's wrong. And just like, they're just sitting there quietly playing. Nah, something's up. Something's wrong.
Calling back to what you brought up earlier about differences with the game and things that we were going to spoil, like a small bit of the game, so prepare for that if you're not already. When we get to our flashback with Bill, and it's showing how he took this area that basically everyone evacuated out of, and he made it his domain, basically. This whole like neighborhood, this whole block, whatever, is squared off, and that's his whole living space. And then he's got all these traps set up for infected. It looks like he's ready for the Fedra or whoever comes through, because we see at some point that he gets the little scanner for the infected. He had to get that somehow. It was probably taking out a Fedra agent or something.
Yeah, and at that point 4 years had gone by that moment.
But we do get Frank, and this episode's very much about Frank. Now, in the game, the most you meet of Frank is a corpse. Off the bat, you find him hanging in a house because he got bit and did not want to turn, hung himself.
Mm-hmm. We meet the memory of Frank.
Exactly, and we find a note that's given to Bill, and that's as much time as you spend with him. So the fact that they took that as an opportunity to tell the story that they did, I thought was really wonderful, and something that in the best way is separating the show from the game, that they're taking this moment in the time. And for me, at least, everything that they've added on, whether it be the cold opens or this whole bottle episode, more or less, compound episode, if you will, they've all seemed like excellent additions.
I'm sorry. I was very
distracted.
No, it's okay. My cat is just deciding to lay in the litter box.
Oh.
Not use the litter box. No, just lay in.
Perfect. Hope it's clean.
That's gross.
Pretty gross.
Yeah. Anyway,
Frank falls in the hole, and we've already gotten used to seeing Nick Offerman's Bill and his survivalist mentality and skepticism.
He's already been fortifying. He waited for the whole town to leave, this little town, because they were probably, I would imagine the Fedra, protocol was like, hey, let's gather up all these people and let's get them into quarantine zones. We don't want them out and about in these little towns here and there, so that they don't have to look after them, so they don't have to build compounds. But Bill was like, I got this. I'll build a compound to run my own town and run things his way. And it was interesting too, is the way he accepted Frank into his life, and gave him this. And then they bond over this Linda Ronstadt song, long time, which is the name of the episode. That was the name of the song. And you could tell Frank right away was Frank, I guess Frank was seducing him, or maybe just playing off the chemistry they had. They started to have.
Frank knew how much he needed somebody in his life, and I think Bill didn't know how much he needed somebody in his life, but Frank knew he did. You know what I mean?
Well, he even says that later too. He goes, before I met you, I wasn't scared.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, now I have something to lose. You are the thing I have to lose, which we see at the end when he says,
"You were my purpose."
When they realize what you are my purpose, when they realize what he did to the bottle of wine. I thought it was such an emotional moment too, and perfectly played by and I can't remember the name of Frank's actor, but perfectly played. Like, we jump forward in time. It's been 10 years now. You see that obviously he has some sort of genetic disorder thing going on.
Not sure if it's Parkinson's or AIDS, maybe, or
yeah. And he's like, "This is time. This is my last day.
Make it a good one."
And make it a good one. He goes, "This is what you're gonna do. We're gonna have a great day.
There's so much.
You're gonna wear what I want you to wear. You're gonna do what I want you to do. You're gonna make me a great dinner." And he made the same dinner he made at the first night, the very first day they met. Duck with whatever,
same wine, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I love how he showed him the wine.
There's
like a waiter.
So much beautiful simplicity in this story, and I found some of the things that got me the most emotional is like when Frank said he like traded Joel, and we'll talk about Joel and Tess in a second, but
flashback. Tess flashback.
He said, I traded Joel and Tess a gun for a packet of seeds and planted some strawberries, and obviously he had to have planted them a while ago without him knowing because they grew.
Yeah,
and so it was a nice surprise, and just the way Nick Offerman sold the reaction to somebody having a strawberry for the first time in like 5-6 years, whatever it was extremely touching. But yeah, let's take that moment to flash back to Joel and Tess meeting.
Well, and that what you just said, the trade. He goes, "Which gun?"
Yeah, don't worry, it's a small one.
It's so true to Bill's character. He's like, "Which gun? Which gun, man?" Yeah, don't worry, it was a small one. It was fun. But yeah, to the Joel and Tess meeting.
Yeah, and I should have put it together quicker, but when Frank said, "I've been talking with a really nice girl on the radio," he's like, "What girl?" Or what woman? Yeah, and it was Tess and Joel. They talk about getting some trade and stuff because they have a bunch of weapons stocked up, which are obviously hard to get in the QZ zones. But in the QZ zones, they do have. So I say QZ zones. That's so redundant. The QZs.
It is redundant.
The quarantine zones.
QZs.
They have medicine and they have a lot of stuff that they're like maintaining and still producing and stuff that where Bill is so blocked off and isolated that he doesn't have access to.
And they're able to come to terms too a little bit because Bill's like, I have everything I need out here. We're very self-sufficient. And then you see Joel's construction mind chime in. He's like, yeah, those fences are deteriorating. They're already rusted.
The second the Raiders show up, which they do.
Yeah, which they do. Exactly. He goes, they're gonna knock those things down. And so he's like, oh no, I'll get you, 10,000 pounds of aluminum or whatever he says. It'll last you the rest of your life. He goes, or lives, because he knows he's looking after. He wants to keep his partners safe. Right. And they come up with, we see Frank and Tess coming up with the whole communication.
Yeah, that was a cool callback.
The songs on the radio.
So now we know that.
And we see that at the end too, when Joel goes into the bunker, and he's like, he plays this on loop, and then he obviously hasn't looped it in weeks,
right?
Because the letter said August 26th or something.
August something, yeah.
August something. The food was moldy. There was flies on it, and I think it's at this point September, late September or something, or October. So it's been probably a month or 6 or so weeks since it happened.
Yeah, and that's when we get caught up with Joel and Ellie come through the town and hi Maverick, bye Maverick, Kitty.
Cheryl will be happy. Kitty appearance is what Cheryl lives for. That's why she comes to this channel.
Absolutely. So then we get the note from Bill, and I kept trying to figure out what. It's funny because like you think you know stuff because of the game, so you keep trying to figure out how they're going to undo something. Because when Bill says, I already put a bunch of this in the wine already, and we've been drinking it because you're my purpose, and it's basically like, Romeo and Juliet is a dual suicide, and I was like, well, he's lying, right? Or he's gonna throw it up or something. And they're like, no, we killed Bill. Kill Bill.
They did such a swerve to game players because I thought the whole time we were gonna see the true Bill come out, the true curmudgeon that we meet in the game, who is just like screw him, like that type of thing. And I thought he was gonna throw it all away, right. Like he was gonna either not do the like he's tell him, hey, I put it in this
or
already,
just leave Frank at the house or something, or
but then we see it on screen. He actually puts it in on screen, and then he drinks the other wine and he chugs it down, and immediately Frank was like, oh, you already put pills into the main bottle, didn't you?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah. I was like, oh no, they totally, because they had me. I really thought they were gonna divert back to the game, and they subverted my expectations in that moment. They did a great job.
But it's like, yeah, like I said, that bit, the behind the scenes bit after the show, when they think that they can do something better or do something more. Mm-hmm. Obviously, better is debatable on how it hits you, but I thought it was fantastic. And again, we get the same end result, but we focus on the story of Bill and Frank instead of Bill's involvement with Joel and Ellie's journey. He impacted their journey post-mortem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And clearly
and yeah.
Good.
Oh, I was going to say, we get, yeah, exactly what you said. We get to the same moments too. We get to get from point A to point B, because in the game, you know, and like I said, we said this before, spoilers for the game. Once you come across Bill and you leave Bill's alive, but you never see him again. He never pops back up in the story other than a mention, maybe in some dialogue here and there. Yeah. He's not in game 1 or game 2. So it's not like a character you had to keep around for any reason. You pass this character and you leave the character. So whether he was alive or not didn't affect the story whatsoever, as long as
you get the same end result. Either way, you don't have Bill moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. So
right. They just had to move on to get to Wyoming to get to Joel's brother. So yeah, it worked out. It worked perfectly.
It was great. The letter was touching. Again, there was a parting message to Joel. He just keeps, you know, losing people and getting a message. The messages all point to, you need to take care of Ellie. And Joel comes to terms with that, and he lets Ellie know. He's like, listen, I'm going to my brother. If you're going to follow me, you listen to what I said. And then we got a few lines of dialogue that were ripped straight out of the game. Where she's, I don't remember exactly what she says. Basically, do as you say. You know, they come to the agreement. I feel like this is the most common ground they've had since meeting.
Yep.
And I think it's going to lead to their relationship feeling a bit more akin to what the game was. Because there's definitely a lot of contention. There's almost more contention, I think, in the show than there was in the game. Comparison's sake. Right. However, Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are doing a phenomenal job as the response.
So far, they're doing a great job at slightly diverging from their character in the game. And this is, you know, if you've seen any interviews, they were told not to watch the game footage, not to play the game. Whether they did that or not, you know, who knows? But Joel is a little more of a hard ass. I feel like Pedro's just his characterization, his acting style is a little more of a softie. Not to call him soft, but like he's warmer. He's slightly warmer, even in his coldness. Whereas Joel was just straight up an asshole in the game. And Ellie's a little more like giddy up, and she's still sarcastic, but not in a mean way. Whereas she seems like I had mentioned earlier, she's a little more sadistic in this show than in the game. But maybe
I think they made Ellie a little harder and
Joel a little
softer. But they're both close. They just like had him lean another direction a little bit more. And I mean, ironically, I guess Joel is a little bit of Mando. You know, he is that hardened, like, you can tell that he's a badass and a little bit of a hard ass, but he's still got a soul there. You know, he's still got some heart.
It's still lone wolf and cub. He's charged with keeping after this kid that he has to make sure stays alive, type of thing. So it works out well. It works out well. I wish there was a scene where, well, there was a scene when they get into the bunker and Ellie's like, look at all these guns. I wish Joel was like, let's take them all. Yeah. But it's fun because earlier in the show, when he puts the assault rifle into the gas station stash, he's like, yeah, there's not just bullets laying around out there. it was such a callback to the game too. You do get an assault rifle in the game at some point, and there are no bullets for it ever. And so you just like, why am I carrying this thing around? And it could have been used for intimidation factor. I suppose could have worked. You know, if you're carrying it and you know someone thinks you have a weapon on them, but. I thought that was good. They stashed it, and then they go looting through the house at the end. They're like, take everything we have. We have to, you know. He builds the battery. They go in. They collect what they can before they load up the truck and leave.
And this episode is a perfect example of the point that I want to make to a lot of people who aren't watching the show still. Is I've brought it up to some coworkers and things, and they're just like, I'm not really into zombies or a zombie show or something like that. I'm like, it's not that. Like, we're 3 episodes in, and the amount of like really infected or zombie scenes that we've had, it's pretty limited. And it's a story about characters and, you know, the different kinds of love between, like, you know, a protector or a father, or, you know, the things that the loss of love can do to various people. And that's something that the showrunners have talked about as well. It's just a great character exploration, as it was in the game, so it's no surprise.
Absolutely. This whole episode was about loss, but it was also about appreciating the time you have. And that's something Bill says too. He goes, I have nothing else to live for. You were my everything. Right? You decided to go, I decided to go. Like that's basically where we left off with him. And he goes, you were my purpose. And I love that whole scene too. They just did such a fantastic job of telling this love story. And we are gonna have many more, I believe so, many more emotional moments through the rest of the story. There's at least, you know, there's some harrowing moments, and then there's some emotional moments with more characters we meet. And I'm wondering how, I'm so much more intrigued now about how they're gonna change it up just a little bit to keep us on our toes, so that it'll keep the show fresh from the gamers. And it makes me more excited, even more excited than I already was, to go into next week's episode.
I cannot wait for episode 4 next Sunday, and it's great to have must-see television again. And I do love that they are making these changes so that we may know some of the ending points, but we don't know how we're going to get there. And the performances have been great, the action's been great, the makeup and effects and everything have been great.
Yes, absolutely.
Phenomenal, especially just the set
on the aging.
Yeah, the settings, the aesthetics. Yeah. It's all phenomenal. So we definitely want to know what you guys think of the show. Make sure to comment down below and like this video. And come watch us every week when we talk about The Last of Us and whatever else we may be covering. I know Ant-Man Quantumania is coming out soon, so we'll definitely be covering that. Yeah. Sean, do you have any last thoughts before we wrap up here?
Nope. Make sure you check out all of our Last of Us content. Alice and I did a watch along for this very episode. If you're seeing this, then you're watching the review, and make sure to check out our teaser, which I also did with Allison after with the watch along. Our teaser reaction for episode 4, which looks to very much mirror the game, but I'm sure it'll go zigzags and turns, and it looks to be a little more action heavy for the next one. So I can't wait to see that. Check out our reaction also up on the channel.
Absolutely. Do that. And until next time, guys, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Thank you for checking out the channel, and we'll catch you on the next video. Keep it real. Bye-bye.
Peace.